what I'd like to do now is welcome Jess Morely. Jess, you can just introduce yourself and the team, what you're doing. And I'm really looking forward to this, about understanding a little bit more about the OpenSAFELY project. Over to you, Jess.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Jess. I am the policy lead in the University of Oxford's Data Lab, which is headed up by Dr. Ben Goldacre. That's half my time. The rest of my time, I, in theory, do my PhD, although I don't spend an awful amount of time doing that because we do fun things in the data lab and I get distracted. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about OpenSAFELY. You can see the website if people have not seen it. It's literally OpenSAFELY as one word.org. And it is a highly secure open source software platform for analysis of electronic health records, where all the code for data management and analysis is shared openly by default for scientific review and efficient reuse. We built it in response, if I say we, I'm massively taking credit for the incredibly talented software engineers in the Data Lab team and from TPP and EMIS, as Chris will talk about later, but we built it in response to the COVID-19 pandemic in order to enable secure access to large volumes of patient records to do studies on things like factors associated with COVID-19 death, who was most at risk, to also look at effectiveness of different types of treatments, to look at interactions, for example, with multimorbidities, all these types of urgent burning questions that the system was desperate for at the time. And we went from idea to first analysis in 5 weeks. And we now have the capability to run across the records of about 95% of the country, but we don't do that all the time. Chris will, I'm sure, talk about that. But our main aim with OpenSAFELY was to provide a mechanism for analysing data that goes above and beyond the current legal and ethical requirements on securing sensitive healthcare data. So the main thing is OpenSAFELY does not move the patient data outside of the secure environment in which it is already held for business as usual. Instead, trusted analysts can run large-scale computation across near real-time pseudonymized patient records in situ. So the data stays where it is, we send the code to the data. OpenSAFELY does not therefore give you unconstrained access to raw data on a raw machine. So we do not allow large data downloads in the way has been traditionally been allowed. And it allows a lot of additional benefits because of this security. It means that we can access larger volumes of data than would have previously been possible, which means you can do analyses with more statistical power, for example. And there are a few other things that are a bit unique about OpenSAFELY. So OpenSAFELY logs every single thing that is requested of the platform. So whenever there is a query sent to the platform, it is automatically logged. All code has to be a default be written in public domain in the GitHub repository, which means there is effectively a full audit log of any query that has ever been sent to the platform, which is not really something that you can normally do. You can't normally go and say what analysis has been done on my patient data on my record. We have that entirely logged. Thanks, Paul. Which is just a very powerful way of improving transparency and being provably trustworthy. So in addition to the fact that we don't move the data, everything happens in public domain by default. And what analysts get back is normally aggregate statistical data. And there are a number of checks along the way as well for additional security, for example, small number suppression. And the reason why everything is open sourced and shared under public licenses is because we believe this is the benefit for public health. And we want to enable many people to be able to do analytics. We want to produce and encourage the development of an open ecosystem of people analysing healthcare data. And we want to enable people to review and reuse the code that we have made available. And therefore, OpenSAFELY is a highly collaborative process. So anyone who uses OpenSAFELY is expected to be able to contribute to the development and expansion of the platform. For example, by contributing to code lists. So I will try and share our code lists, which in the chat, if I find my chat, so you can see. There's the chat. So all of the code lists that are developed for OpenSAFELY and by the OpenSAFELY team are available there for others to reuse them. And we are aware that it's quite difficult sometimes for people to get credit for this type of thing. So this is the other thing we're trying to work through, is look at how do we give credit for software development? How do we give credit for the bits and pieces that go behind producing analysis rather than just the final publication? And so that's why we also have this reason why we make the code lists available for public, and you can see who developed it, and it makes it easier to track. And our hope is that we will be able to do things like put DOIs on the code lists and enable people to cite them. And we have a blog about this actually on the Data Lab website. And we are working currently, the main people who use OpenSAFELY are researchers in Oxford Data Lab and researchers in the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, who are our partners in developing the whole of this platform. But we are working towards a goal where we have other researchers using the platform. And we are piloting this process as an onboarding process at the moment to look at how we do that. There's currently a two-step process of application. You are reviewed by IG, by NHS England, who are the ultimate data controller, and we as a Data Lab team are reviewing for feasibility and technical capability. And so those are really our main principles. So it's a big analytics, secure analytics platform. It enables remote access to large volumes of patient data by safe analysts. The data doesn't move. Everything is logged in public by default. You have to work in public by default in order to encourage people to reuse and share and review their code. We don't consider the only outputs to be the final analytics paper. We're also encouraging people to contribute to the software development platform, and that's something that we think is quite unique. And then we aim to be provably trustworthy, rather than just assume that because we are a trustworthy organization, people will trust us to use their data. We're trying to be demonstrably transparent about it and to develop everything in the open and no domain.